chatting about why you keep attracting clients that cannot afford you. So, a lot of the time when people are kind of new to running their business, or maybe you've been running your business for a while, but you keep attracting clients who say that they can't afford you, or they ghost you after maybe like putting down a down payment and then you never hear from them again, you don't end up working together, or they hear about the pricing and they're just like, oh my God, I can't afford that. And it gets really frustrating after a while because you're like, you want to do the work that you want to do, you want to be of service, you want to contribute, you want to feel that sense of fulfillment, which are all super important things. And that's the thing I love about most of my clients is they're so motivated by coming from a place of service, because that's also one of my values. It's so important to me to feel like I'm helping other people grow on their journey. But you can start to feel resentful after a while because you're like, I really want to share my gifts with people, and people just keep saying they can't pay me, they keep ghosting me, and I'm just super over it, which is totally understandable. And so, just a quick intro for those who don't know me. I'm Kim, and I help struggling entrepreneurs just like you to overcome low self-worth issues so you can go from struggling to abundance and flow in just 21 days. And today we're chatting about why you keep attracting clients who can't afford to pay you. So I totally understand how frustrating this can be. When I had my photography business, like it was quite a while ago now, but I used to be a photographer. And when I had that business, when I first started running it, I was like 19 years old, and I was like thought $100 for like a 2-hour shoot was a really good rate. And even then I was still scared that my clients weren't going to pay it. I remember the first paid shoot I ever did was for this band, and they were like, how much does it cost to work with you? And I thought saying $100 was like super wild and out there, and it ended up being like this huge long day that was a lot longer than I had intended. And I was still scared that they weren't going to pay me that $100 because I thought that was so much money at the time. And so when you kind of end up pricing yourself like that, or you're like trying to figure out, especially if you're a service-based business, it can be really challenging to figure out your pricing sometimes. And so I would just be constantly trying to lowball myself when people would come to me like asking to work with me. I would be just charging these super low prices because that's what I thought people would pay. And if people were ever like, sometimes I would get some pushback from people and they're like, I don't pay for photographers, or like, can you do it for free, or can you do it for a trade? And it was really frustrating because I was like, well, how am I supposed to get ahead and do this as a business if people just won't even pay like a couple $100 for a photo shoot? So when I say I get this, I totally get it. I understand what it's like to be in a place where you're like constantly afraid that people don't want to pay you, or they like say they don't want to pay for the work that you have. And it makes you kind of start to doubt yourself because you're like, well, if they don't want to pay me, then like who's going to pay me? How am I going to get clients? Maybe it's better if I just try and keep my prices really low, and then at least I know that people will always say yes. But the thing is no matter what your pricing is, when people say it's about the money, it's never really about the money. And I know that sounds crazy initially because you're like, well, they just told me it was about the money. What do you mean it's not? So people really, like most people generally speaking, like there's always exceptions to this rule, but like most people, if they have a job, if they have a steady income, like they come up with the money for the things that they want to all the time. People go out on a weekend and spend like hundreds of dollars just on alcohol, and they're never even going to get that back, and they probably don't even remember what they did. Or say even like your car breaks down and then you have to take it to the mechanic, and then that ends up costing you like $1,000. People still find a way to come up with that money because people will find a way to pay for what they want. So when people say that it's about the money, it's really not about the money most of the time. It's about how you're showing up. It's about how you're communicating your value and how much you believe in yourself and your ability to help them. And when you don't feel like you're good enough, and you don't feel like confident about that pricing, you don't feel confident about the value that you give, then people feel that because people are always just mirroring back to us like what we feel about ourselves. So that's why it's so crucial for business owners to really build their self-worth and build their belief in what they do, because when you know the value that you can bring to people, and when you can communicate it in a concise way and be like, this is where you are, this is where you want to be, I am the person who can get you here, and here's why. When you're able to walk into something with that level of confidence, with that level of like self-worth, and knowing that like if someone says no, it doesn't actually mean anything about you, it's just feedback. When you're able to show up in that way, then people start saying yes to you, and you can charge whatever you want because people aren't paying for your time, they're not paying for your education, they're not paying for the amount of deliverables, they're paying for the result, they're paying for the transformation, they're paying for like the benefits of what they're going to get from working with you. So this is why we need to stop moving it away from being like, oh, well, I feel like charging like $100 for an hour of my time sounds like a lot of money. And it's like, well, you're not charging for your time because you're charging for your expertise and your experience and the transformation they're going to get and what they're going to be able to do with that. And so, especially when you're new to running a business, it's really easy to still have an employee mindset and be like, okay, well, in my job, I was making $25 an hour, so making $100 an hour sounds like a lot. But the mindset shift needs to come in and be like, okay, I'm not charging an hourly rate, I'm charging by the transformation. And I know that I bring people an incredible transformation. So I know that it's worth it. And when you show up to sales calls or like emailing people, people can feel that. They can feel when you know that you're confident, when you feel like you know that you're worthy. And that totally changes the conversation because when you believe in yourself and you feel good about yourself and you're able to just show up in that version of yourself that knows they're good enough, knows they're worth it, can communicate that value, then your clients are not never going to say no to you, but you're going to get a lot more yeses than you are no's. And even if you do get a no, or if people have objections, you're not going to think it's about you, because when people have objections, they're just showing you where they're afraid. And it's your job to help show them like why they're going to benefit from working with you. But if you're stuck in feeling like I'm not good enough and this person just said no to me, then that's going to make it a whole lot harder for you to just keep moving forward, and then you potentially lose the sale, and then you're stuck with a business that's not making a lot of money. But the good news is that this is something you can control. Like, you can't control what other people do, you can't control how other people think, and it's really futile to try. Like, there's just no point. But the thing is you can control how you feel about yourself. And the amazing thing about this is people mirror back to you how you feel about yourself. Like, when you don't feel good about yourself, you don't feel worthy, you don't feel deserving, people just mirror that back to you, and they mirror it back to you in terms of like trying to walk all over you, asking for price discounts, like just ghosting you because you're not showing up in that energy of someone who believes they're worthy and deserving of everything they want, which is the energy you need to show up in if you want to grow your business successfully. And the best news is this is something you can work on yourself. You don't need anyone else to like do this for you. Like, you might need help to get through it, but you know what I mean. It's like you don't need to have someone else be part of it. Like, this is something you can work on your own. So if you are ready to go from being a struggling entrepreneur to abundance and flow in just 21 days, you can hop on a free strategy call with me. I'll put the link below, and we can chat about how to help you overcome this. So I hope you have an incredible day, and I will talk to you soon.